All right, welcome to the tailgate debate. I'm Anthony. I'm here with Jamie and Zach. All right, we're gonna start to move away from the NFL stuff. Earl has dropped off from us now, so we're gonna start to eliminate the NFL and just focus primarily on college, which is good. That's what we watch mainly anyway. So let's start with a week 9 pre review. It was a pretty good week of college football. Um, Not much going on the weeknight games, Thursday night games, Virginia Tech, NC State, Utah, Washington. But let's get into the weekend slate. Zach, you want to give us a recap real quick of how we did on our picks? Do you have that pulled up?
Yeah, you got 5 and Jamie and I got 7.
Yeah, so not a banner week for me again, but that seems to be par for the course at this point. I'm doing terrible. All right, let's start with the cocktail party. So Florida, Georgia. What did you guys think? I thought Georgia absolutely dominated this game. I don't care what the score says, 42-20. I thought it was actually much worse than that. I'm not sure how much you guys watched. It was actually hard to watch. 28-3 right out of the gate. Georgia jumped all over them. Florida looked like they were going to make it a game in the third quarter, but then Georgia just pulled away. I thought Georgia looked really good, and Florida just continues to really struggle. What'd you guys think?
Florida looks to me like they threw in the towel after our game. I mean, they've gotten stomped by LSU. I didn't even feel like they showed up for that game yesterday. Like, I know Georgia's obviously the best team in the country right now, but Florida just looked lethargic. Like they kind of had no game plan, just letting Georgia do whatever. It was weird for that game because that game normally, even if one team is bad, it's still a pretty physical, tough game for a while at least. But I felt like Florida has just laid down after our game. We talked about that after our game happened, that they kind of threw everything they had into it, and now I feel like they have nothing left. So,
Zach, Jamie, you got any takeaways from Georgia specifically?
Just that they look. I mean, they can be beat. There's been times this season where they've looked not so great and have had a lack of focus. Florida yesterday went on a 17-0 run to make the game close before pulling away at the end. And then we seen Georgia play against Missouri earlier in the season, and so they might look like the best team on the field as far as talent, but they're definitely beatable. And they have moments where they just, for whatever reason, like they just don't look like themselves for different spans of games, which is concerning if I'm a Georgia fan.
Yeah, I thought they looked really balanced. I thought they played good defense. I thought they ran the ball very effectively, and then passed the ball well. The only thing I didn't really see from Georgia, and I don't know that they really had to yesterday, I didn't see much down the field threat. So I think their longest passes were 15, 20 yards, but I didn't really see any deep balls. And to be honest, I kind of tuned out in the second half because it was such a blowout. But I didn't see a lot in terms of downfield threats. And I think that Georgia's wide receivers actually, I don't know if they've caught a touchdown yet this year. I think everything's been to the tight ends. I think I heard something crazy like that. I'm not sure. So if there's any weakness, maybe it's their down the field passing ability, but they look good to me. They look very balanced, very solid. And it looks like they really bounced back nicely from a national title year and a lot of draft picks that they lost. But we'll get back to Georgia in a minute when we get ready to do the review for next week. So next game was Ohio State, Penn State. I thought this game was actually closer than the score let on. I mean, Penn State had a lot of turnovers. I'm not impressed with Ohio State. I know everybody keeps pumping them up, calling them number one and saying how loaded they are and this and that. This is the second game I've seen them not look great. Struggle. I don't think they've looked great in any game other than when they play inferior teams. So I'm not impressed with Ohio State. They ended up pulling this one out. A lot of turnovers by Penn State. I just don't think Penn State's really bad. What did you guys think?
yeah, Penn State has played 2 legitimate teams all season and lost by like 80 points combined and had like 8 turnovers in those 2 games. So they have no business being in the top 25. I think that game made it pretty clear that there's Michigan, Ohio State, and then everyone else in that conference. Like the drop off from the top to the bottom is insane. The talent discrepancy is obvious. Ohio State, And Ohio State's offense is overrated. For me, that was the takeaway. They had multiple turnovers in Penn State's half of the field, and they came away with 7 points. Like their defense was doing everything. I mean, that one dude had what? He was a defensive end. Is he a defensive end or a defensive tackle? Who had 2 picks, 1 pick six, a strip sack recovery, and like 3 sacks or something. And meanwhile, Ohio State limped into the half with 13 points. I'm just tired of hearing about him.
Yeah, listen, that guy had a beast of a day. I mean, he really did. But I agree. I mean, short of his disruption, Ohio State really didn't do a whole lot to an offense in Penn State that's just not very good. So what do you think, Jamie?
I kind of knew that Penn State wasn't very good before this game just because of what they did against Michigan. Because I don't think Michigan's all that great, and they dominated Penn State. So for Ohio State to kind of struggle with Penn State, not a good look for them. And their offense, like I know they have a ton of names and like high level recruits on offense, but if you look at the 2 games where they played teams that had athletes that could match up with their athletes in Notre Dame and Penn State, their offense just doesn't look like anything special. I think CJ Stroud had 1 passing touchdown yesterday. He had 1 passing touchdown against Notre Dame. So like all of his stats and all their big plays and all their points are coming off of games where they're playing terrible talent. So I think their offense is overrated. I said last week that if Tennessee and Ohio State played, that it would be a shootout. I don't even know if it would be a shootout. I don't even know if Ohio State would be able to put up a ton of points on your guys' defense, which isn't a great defense, but would, definitely have the athletes to match up with Ohio State. So what I took away from that game yesterday is that Ohio State's super overrated. They're not very good. And like Zach said, Michigan and Ohio State are the clear front runners for the Big Ten. And I don't even know if either of those teams are good teams with the overall picture. Like they might be the Big Ten champ, go undefeated, but once they hit the playoffs and play some better teams, they could get embarrassed.
I think that's what's going to happen. Would anybody pick Ohio State or Michigan right now over Bama, Georgia, even Tennessee? Like for the non-Tennessee people. I mean, the Big Ten is just the SEC's little brother. That's all there is to it. And Ohio State and Michigan kind of remind me of Tennessee in the 90s, where they outclass all their opponents. And then as soon as they have a team that matches the talent, you see how bad the coaching actually is. Like, that's what Ohio State looks like to me. As soon as anyone's near their talent level, they just completely shut down.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree that they completely shut down, but I do think, I don't know if I can put my finger on exactly what it is, but every time I really don't expect them to be able to compete with the SEC in the come playoff time. They'll probably make the playoffs. They don't play anybody else till Michigan. So I think Michigan and Ohio State pretty much have a walk at this point through to the playoffs. And whichever one of them go, I think gets rolled in the semifinal game. If they play an SEC team. Now, if they were to get matched up with TCU or Clemson, then yeah, they beat one of those teams. But I think the national title is coming out of the SEC again. I don't think there's any secret about that, and I don't think anybody would really dispute that at this point. To me, a one-loss Alabama team is still better than Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, and Clemson. So that kind of tells you the state of the union there, I think. You guys disagree with that or agree?
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm so fucking tired of hearing about it. Even during our game last night, they were talking about Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Herbie just can't let it go, man. He just can't let it go. Speaking of our game, that's what's next. So let's go ahead and get into it. Kentucky played Tennessee. Some people were projecting that this might be a game if Tennessee was looking past Kentucky. I don't think a lot of people were really giving Kentucky a legitimate shot. I think that people thought that Tennessee's offense would be too overwhelming, and it was. I think that people were a little bit questionable in terms of whether or not of Tennessee's focus because of the Georgia game coming up the next week, and I was too. I didn't think we would have a letdown because Heupel has gotten these guys ready and focused for every game. There's been no letdown in any game, so there was no reason to suspect that we would look past Kentucky, but there's always that possibility when you're talking about, young athletes. Tennessee I thought started out a little bit slow. We scored the first drive, but then I think sputtered a little bit on the next drive. Sputtered a lot actually with a bullshit pass interference call and then another couple penalties. After that, we really took control of the game. And let me tell you guys, I'm not going to go into play by play and all that crap. I'm just going to tell you what I really liked the most about this game was that Kentucky really took away a lot of the big plays that we've been doing to most of the teams. And so we had to actually put together just kind of normal drives. And we did it very effectively. So converting on third down, taking the 3-4 yard plays, and doing it consistently through 4 quarters. That was a change of pace for us that I think Kentucky kind of forced. And I like the fact that Tennessee was able to adjust, be patient, take what they gave us, and just continue to pile up points. And then defensively, of course, just completely shut down Levis, the NFL stud, and the Kentucky Wildcat, offense that's just so phenomenal with their 200 yards. I hope we're done with these guys. I don't want to hear any more about Levis or Kentucky for the rest of the season. I hope we're done. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I thought Kentucky actually had the right game plan. They just had no chance of executing it. And their game plan was clearly we're going to put 7 DBs in, keep everything in front, and try to hold Tennessee to field goals and then possess the ball when we have it. Of course, they got roasted the first drive, but that's clearly what they were doing. Like the one drive we had was 13 rushes out of 15 plays. I mean, that's, I think if you're undermanned, that's the right move. But, their offense let them down. I mean, 6 points is pitiful, especially when you consider how our defense has been all season.
Yeah. Our defense stepped up though. I do think their offense is not very good, but I also think our defense stepped up. Rodriguez really had his way on their second drive. And then we kind of put a stop to that shit too. So Jamie, what's your takeaway from the game?
I thought that Kentucky looked confused on defense a lot. There was 2 times where you guys had big plays to Hyatt, where the linebacker was, the first one was for whatever reason, the linebacker was sticking Hyatt and the safety hit the under route. That was the first touchdown. And then the second one, I think it was another safety miscommunication where Hyatt catches a touchdown.
It was the exact same play.
Yeah. So, but at least they had a corner out there this time. The first time it was a linebacker. I don't understand that at all. And if you're the safety, how are you like, all right, I think my linebacker is going to cover their fastest receiver. I'm going to take the under route. That's covered. It was very weird. Kentucky's offense was just bad. Levis looked like total shit. And I know he's dealing with a ton of injuries, but everything that he did was terrible. Like his throws down the field were either batted down or intercepted. Everything that they were running was to the sidelines, behind the line of scrimmage. They tried to run the ball. They had some success running the ball, but then it kind of got shut down once Tennessee realized that Levis fucking sucks and can't throw the ball down the field. So the game, for me, just watching as a fan, it was super boring. But as a Tennessee, like if I'm a Tennessee fan watching that game, like you guys are doing to your opponents what you're supposed to do at this point in the season, where at the beginning of the season, the Pitt game was a battle and you guys grinded it out, where now you're playing these teams and you're just putting them away and they can't even stay with you guys. You're just dominating them. So your team is getting better every week. And I mean, if I'm a Tennessee fan, like I'm thinking national championship at this point. Like I've seen enough to where I don't know if any team can beat you guys. And obviously the big game is Georgia. You'll really see what you guys can do. But if Georgia has a moment in the game against you guys where they lose focus and kind of don't score points for several drives or have some miscues, Tennessee's going to take advantage of it. They've shown that they're that type of team that if you fuck up, they're going to make you pay for it. So that's part of the reason why I think that Tennessee's, they're getting better every week and they're blowing teams out. Like people are talking about LSU being this team on the rebound and bouncing back and they're a real threat. You guys beat the shit out of them. So, and then now with Kentucky, which Kentucky, I mean, they have 2 losses already, and they were kind of, no one really thought that they were a great team, but still, you guys did what you're supposed to do to those teams. You fuck them up.
Yeah, I agree. We definitely fucked them up. It was fun to watch. But we'll come back to Tennessee because we gotta do the previews for next week, and that's gonna be the biggest game of the season in college football, really, up to this point. There will be other big games coming up, but that'll be the biggest so far. Next, Michigan State. Nothing really to get into here. Michigan put it on 29-7. TCU, West Virginia. TCU, man. They must have had, I don't know how many plays for 30 plus yards. I don't think West Virginia really understands that they have to play defense. I mean, somebody really needs to send them a memo and let them know that it's actually a requirement if you're going to win a football team to play some defense. Because every Zach and I were talking during the game, and Zach said, I don't think TCU's been in the red zone yet. And I agree. I think every touchdown drive came from like their own 40 or further. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. So TCU put all over West Virginia. You guys have anything about this game? I mean, it was kind of embarrassing. It's typical Big 12 shit. No defense.
I think TCU will be the next undefeated to go down. I mean, obviously, aside from Tennessee or Georgia, because we play each other, but I think TCU will drop one that they shouldn't. They've had way too many close calls. They've gotten slow starts like every single game. That shit will catch up to them.
Yeah, I agree. Jamie, did you watch any of this game, or were you locked into Notre Dame at that point?
No, I seen the highlights and I was keeping tabs on it. It was back and forth. Probably a fun game to watch if you're not a fan of either team because it's a lot of scoring and no defense.
Yeah,
But
pretty much.
I think that because like you guys are saying, I don't think TCU was ever in the red zone. In the times that they were, I think they had to kick field goals. So maybe West Virginia should have just let them get into the red zone and then tighten up their defense so that you can't really have a big play.
When I said that they hadn't been in the red zone, I think they had 28 points when I said that.
Yeah. And then the other thing that you said was you think TCU is going to be the next undefeated to drop a game. Just keep in mind that Clemson comes to South Bend this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Don't spoil the predictions though.
I'm just saying, just keep in mind because I'm not. I think TCU. Who does TCU play this upcoming week?
I think Texas Tech.
Yeah. But Texas Tech is a much better home team. They don't do much on the road, I don't think.
They're schizophrenic.
Did they play? Was Baylor at Baylor?
I'm not sure.
It was in Texas Tech, I think.
Oh yeah, so Texas Tech is good at home. They just got their ass whooped by Baylor.
Texas Tech is one of those teams, they'll either show up or not. Like they'll come score 50 and then score 10.
Well, they elected not to this weekend, so
yeah,
we'll see next weekend. They got fucking beat down by Baylor. Beat down. Anyway, Oregon put it on Cal. Bo Nix has declared that if Oregon plays Georgia again, they will beat Georgia. That's his declaration. So I guess they've recovered from the 49-3 beat down in week 1, and Bo Nix, I guess, is saying, hey, it was a fluke.
He also said that game would be different, and everybody knows that. I don't know who everybody is, but I'm not included in that.
I will also withdraw my name from that everybody comment.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a guy who's going, what is he, 0-4 against Georgia with like 12 picks and no touchdowns or some shit, I would just shut the fuck up. Like, not to mention, you just scored 3 points 2 months ago. Just be quiet. Go play your Pac-12 games. Try to win the conference and see if everyone else loses 2 games so you can join in.
Yeah, that's my position. Just be quiet, I think, is good advice. Just be quiet. I know Heather Denich and some of these people are talking about them being a playoff team. They're not a playoff team. They will not make the playoffs. And if they do, they'll get beat down again, just like they did the first time by anybody they play in the playoffs.
If they're in the playoffs, it's a fucking travesty.
Well, I mean, look,
no one loss that any team in the top 10 has is going to be worse than that loss.
No, it would require multiple losses by conference champions. I mean, it would have to be a complete train wreck near the end of the season for them to get back in. They won't get in over any other one-loss legitimate contender. So they're not getting in. It's not even worth.
Bo Nix he's also got himself back into the Heisman race conversation. which is strange to
Says
me.
who?
He's on the
What?
he's on the odds, and it's strange to me because in his biggest game of the season, he scored 0 touchdowns and did nothing. So it's like I don't understand it. I guess if you just get stats against shitty teams and blow out the shitty teams, you're a Heisman candidate.
Yeah, I don't really. I don't know who's saying this stuff, but they're fucking idiots. Bo Nix is a fucking mop. I mean, he's doing well in the Pac-12, where they also don't play defense. So okay, good for you. You can score touchdowns in a flag football league. Wake went down to Louisville. I was really surprised with this. I thought that Wake Forest was a really dominant top 10 team. If you can sense the sarcasm.
I wonder what the odds were if you bet on them having 8 second half fucking turnovers.
I don't know, but I think the odds were pretty good that nobody thought they were a legitimate, not top 10 team.
Yeah, I was just bitching about that last week.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, it's a fucking joke, man. It's a joke. And how bad is Clemson looking at this point? I mean, really, Clemson. If Clemson loses, they're going to plummet in the polls if they lose a game, and we'll get to that. USC took care of business against Arizona, a really dominant win, 45-37. They were tied at number 10 with Wake, and USC just really put on a nice display against a 3-5 Arizona team. So good for them. UCLA bounced back 38-13 against Stanford. A&M went down by 3 to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is not very good. Next is Notre Dame, Syracuse. All right, so I was finally able to get tuned into the Notre Dame game since they didn't have it on the Peacock channel. And I thought Notre Dame looked exactly the way that I thought they would. Played good defense, physical, and really stifled Syracuse already stifled offense. So I thought Notre Dame did. The game looked exactly the way that I thought it would, and good for Notre Dame for keeping the game plan simple and creating a way to really dominate Syracuse and not giving them turnovers with stupid pass plays. They just kind of out physicaled them. And if Notre Dame plays like that against Clemson, they'll beat them as well. But we'll get to that. So I thought it was a good win for Notre Dame and a nice kind of turn to the season, get them to 5-3, and start trending in the right direction. What do you guys think?
Every time I turned it on, they were just running it right down their throat. That's pretty much what I expected to happen. Syracuse offense is an abomination. That performance against Clemson still pisses me off. It's been 2 weeks. I'm not a fan of either team. But yeah, I mean, Notre Dame did they were who they thought we were. And I thought it would be more like a, 24-10 type game. And I didn't think Notre Dame was going to score 40, but yeah, I mean, they beat their ass. So good for them for getting their shit together finally.
Yeah, the game started with a pick 6. So that was awesome. Like anytime your defense can help out your offense and score some points for them is good, especially when your offense is struggling. But yeah, like you guys are saying, our offensive line just muscled the shit out of Syracuse. They were small. We were doing whatever we wanted with them. I just wish that our offense, like our quarterback, would throw the ball down the field more often. And the only times that he did throw the ball down the field were when our tight end was covered by 4 people. And he threw an interception. So I don't understand like why we don't throw the ball down the field to our wide receivers. We don't even give them chances to make plays, and the shit frustrates me. While yesterday the game plan was to run the ball, I get that. I'm okay with that. Like if you can run the ball and get 5 yards of carry, you do it. You take what they give you and you take the mismatch. But I just wish that we did a little bit more. Because if you're running the ball like that, obviously the defense is coming up. They're playing the run. They're loading the box. Hit a play action. Hit a receiver down the field. Just have some explosiveness to your offense. It's just so fucking boring watching, run. But I'm happy with the win. I'm happy with the fact that we did take a game plan, execute it, and have a good result. That's my takeaway from the game. And like I said with Notre Dame, like you never know what to expect. So like we look good against Syracuse, which Syracuse isn't a good team. And next week we play Clemson, who I also don't think is a good team, but we could potentially, look like a totally different team against Clemson. We've had no consistency this season, and it's just kind of been see what team shows up and see how the game goes. So I'm not really expecting much. I think we can beat Clemson, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think as far as the downfield stuff, I think you have to throw it, even if you never complete one, just to keep them honest, like so they know that you will do it. I mean, even if you just throw, 30-yard fades or whatever that are safe passes, still take a shot.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
For our receivers, I watched the games with my brother, and I was asking him, like, how many targets do our receivers have down the field? And we could only think of one, and it was actually his first option was to the tight end on a 5-yard out, and it was a play where that was covered and he hit the receiver. So like he wouldn't have even went to the receiver if that first wasn't open. So it's just crazy. I'm like, why would any receiver want to come play in this offense? It's like, you're going to get on the field, but we're not going to throw you the ball no matter what. If you have single coverage and they're loading the box, we're not going to throw you the ball. Like you're saying, like you have to have that in your offense to keep them honest. And why wouldn't you try to take advantage of that if you have single coverage and no safety help over top? Like just try to do a play action and throw the ball down the field. So.
It's a very 90s style philosophy.
It's ultra conservative for sure. I think that Notre Dame's coaches have some issues here in the future, but right now, I mean, they need to salvage the season, and they, a win over Syracuse is good, but next weekend could really kind of be the highlight of the season.
But the one more thing I want to say about that is, like, it's all fine and dandy to run the ball against Syracuse when you can do it, you can do it. But what happens when you're playing a team and they take away the run and we're not able to run that easy? You got to be able to throw down the field. So why wouldn't you do that and make sure that you have those reps and your guys are getting those plays? And it's just weird to me. Even with the leads that we had, we were up by 17 points at one time and we're still being super conservative and not taking shots. It's like, I don't know. I hate it.
Yeah. That shit is very frustrating, but it's more frustrating when you lose. I mean, if that's the game plan and you win and you win in dominant fashion, it's just, I think it's one of those things where you have to just kind of impose your will on the other team. And I don't really have a problem with it, but I do agree with you. It does leave some question marks for what happens when you play a team that's equally physical up front.
They're going to find out next week. Yeah, Clemson's defensive line is legit.
Exactly. So now that's what I was going to say is that's going to be an issue in 6 days from now. And so we'll get into that when we do the preview. Next, Cincinnati went down to UCF. That was a pick'em game. And then Pitt is officially done. They went down to North Carolina. So Pitt's 4-4, 1-3 in the ACC. So I was way off the mark on that pick. Doesn't matter. Whatever. Who cares?
Still undefeated.
Yeah. Narduzzi says they're still undefeated because if they didn't make mistakes, they would win every game. So he's really a classy coach. I really like that dude.
Did North Carolina beat Pitt or did Pitt beat Pitt?
Only Pitt beats Pitt.
Only Pitt beats Pitt.
It's like dodgeball when Ben Stiller says, "No one makes me bleed my own blood."
Yeah. So the Pitt take was really bad, and you rode the Pitt train for way too long. You should have jumped off way before, but you just continued to ride it. Are you ready to jump off the Kenny Pickett train yet, or no?
Not yet. I'm holding out for Kenny Pickett.
The only person that supports Pitt more than you is Pat Narduzzi.
Listen, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're undefeated. All right. Well, they're 6-1. They're 7-1 because they lost to us. That was legit. All right, then Missouri and South Carolina. Missouri put it on South Carolina. South Carolina had just cracked the top 25, and they talked about how that was a significant progress for their program and how it meant they were trending in the right direction. And then Missouri comes to town and just beats their fucking ass at home. And Missouri, I would say is quite a shitty team. So, so look, our last real game of the season, I think, comes next week against Georgia because we finished with Missouri, South Carolina, and then Vandy. So I think we're gonna be in good shape in those games. I don't think any of those teams are very good, but what an ugly game for Beamer ball. Any other takeaways from college football and before we do our playoff predictions?
Did you skip Oklahoma State, Kansas State?
Oh shit, I did. Yeah.
Because that was the most embarrassing game of the weekend.
That was with their backup quarterback too.
Kansas State's backup?
Yeah.
It was 48 nothing was the final, right?
Yeah.
48 nothing is the final. Yes.
Whew.
It was 35 to nothing at halftime. And then they added 13 points in the second half for good measure.
Jeez.
I mean, Gundy is, I know he's a man, but holy cow, 48 to nothing. What a fucking absolute beatdown. The Big 12 is really bad, and the Big 12 is 100% eliminated from the playoff. I don't think TCU goes undefeated, and they're literally the only hope for them to get into the playoff. And TCU, I think, I haven't looked at the schedule, but I think they play Texas in 2 weeks.
The Texas Tech's going to get them this week. It doesn't matter.
I don't know about that, but I think Texas definitely will. Maybe.
How has Mike Gundy been able to stay at OK State this long? It's crazy because, like, if he was doing this at Notre Dame, I would want his ass gone like 5 years ago. And I'm sure you guys would say the same thing if he was doing this shit at Tennessee. It's every year we think, OK State has a good team. They're winning games, and then just out of nowhere they either lose to Oklahoma or they lose to some random ass team that they shouldn't have lost to. In this game, 48-0 against Kansas State with a backup quarterback, that would have been it for me.
Yeah, I think I mean they do the same shit every year. They start off whatever 5-6-0, and then just what you said, they get their ass whipped a couple of times and everyone just forgets. And then every once in a while they'll sneak up on, Oklahoma or Texas, and I guess that keeps them around.
Yeah, it's actually bizarre. I never believe in Oklahoma State. Never. And I don't think anybody does. As soon as they go 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, I mean, they talk about them in the playoff rankings, but I don't think anybody ever actually believes that they're a legitimate threat to do anything other than go to a New Year's Day bowl. That seems to be their goal, their focus, and they do a great job with that. But I agree with you, Jamie. Howie has a job. I mean, I guess Oklahoma State is just content with 9-10 win seasons because they do that consistently, but it doesn't seem like there's anything better in the future. I mean, this has been going on for 15 years, probably.
Well, it's crazy too, because if you're talking about winning the Big 12, this is the year. Like Oklahoma sucks. Texas is doing their typical bullshit. So TCU is the only team they had to beat. Apparently, aside from Kansas State.
Well, Kansas State, yeah.
But the Big 12 was relatively down even for the Big 12. So this would have been the year for them.
But even
the Big 12,
even last year though, like they had Oklahoma out of the way because they were able to beat Oklahoma, and then they lose to Baylor in the Big 12 championship. Yeah. Like, they just never fucking win.
Yep.
Yeah, Gundy is not good. But yeah, at least he's a man. All right. Anything else from college football weekend? It's a good weekend of football. I had games going all day. They're good games. It was fun to watch. Anything else?
Did you see the Miami Virginia game? 4 overtimes. 4 overtimes. It was 14-12.
4 overtimes and the final was 14-12.
Yeah.
Did the overtimes just end in them missing field goals or turning over on downs? Like,
I don't know, because after 2 now they go to the conversions. So I don't know what the hell happened. Let me see if I can find the box score real quick.
Yeah, I mean, how the fuck do you play a whole game and 4 overtimes and only score 14 points?
I saw that in the third quarter. I think it was in the third quarter. It was 6-3.
Yeah. Okay. So the final was 6-6, and the overtimes was 8-6. So I guess they each hit field goals in the first 2 overtimes, and then 1 hit a conversion.
What a colossal turd of a game.
They should have put that on the Thursday night NFL game.
Well, no, it's too many points.
They should have After the game, they should have just said, "You guys can both go home. You guys have to tie. We're not doing an overtime." Like what?
Yeah. Yeah. They should have just had a fucking race. They should have said, give us your 2 fastest players. We'll put you on the end line. Whoever wins the race, we're going to give it to you and let's get the fuck out of here.
I don't even know. I don't even know if that would have worked. I was thinking.
They should have made, they should have made the coaches. They should have made the coaches race.
Nah, I was thinking like rock, paper, scissors. And let's get out of here.
No, rock, paper, scissors gets too controversial. You always get somebody that does that delayed shoot. You know what I mean? The fucking cheaters like you, Jamie.
No, I'm rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Very
Yeah, and
strict.
then you got some asshole that always wants to throw dynamite out there. Oh, it's dynamite.
I don't know who you've been playing rock, paper, scissors with, but I don't run into those issues. I've never seen somebody throw dynamite.
I was watching some TV show episode years ago, and they did the rock, paper, scissors, and the guy starts putting his hands like that. He's like, it's fire. Oh shit, I don't remember what it was. All right, it might have been Friends actually. All right. Okay, anything else from the college football weekend? Really good weekend, I thought. And now we're down the stretch. We were in the grind of the midseason, but we're talking about 4 or 5 weeks left now. 4 weeks, I think. And really this is the stretch. First playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. So let's do our playoff rankings before they do their playoff rankings. Ours are more important and more people are going to really want to know what we think. So let's do ours. So the AP is not out today, but from last week, this is still with everybody 7-0, but we know the outcomes of the games. It was Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, Michigan, Clemson, Bama, TCU. That's the top 7. I'm not going to go below that. I don't think anybody would put Oregon in their playoff on this expert panel. So give me your 4. Who wants to go first? I can go first if you guys aren't ready.
Well,
Are we doing ours or what we think it's gonna be?
No, give what well, let's do both. Let's do what tell me what you think it should be, and then tell me what you think it will be. And then give me your two that are missing the cut right now.
and this top 4, is it based on resumes to this point, or are we talking what we think it will be at the end of the season?
Based on resume to this point, who based on what we've seen through 9 weeks of football, most teams have had their bye weeks. So, most teams have played 8 games. We're in the 9th week. Based on what you've seen, where do you got them? Who's ready? I can go if you're not ready.
Go ahead.
All right. Mine is very simple. I'm trying to be objective about this. I think resume, I have to go, if I'm just going resume, I have to put Tennessee at number 1. I really think Georgia is a legit, they're a legit number 1 team in the AP. I have no issues with that whatsoever. I think our resume is better though. But watching Georgia, I think they're super balanced and they're just a solid all around football team. And so I have, if the committee comes out, has Georgia at 1, I get it. I do. But for me, resume, where we're at, I got Tennessee number 1, Georgia number 2, Alabama number 3, and Ohio State number 4. And yes, I got the 1-loss Alabama over an undefeated Michigan, Clemson, TCU. They're better. That's my 4. I want to correct that. Tennessee 1, Georgia 2, Alabama 3, and Ohio State 4. That's my 4. My first 2 out is Michigan, Clemson. Who's up? Come on, bitches.
All right. Mine would probably be Georgia, Tennessee, Michigan, and TCU.
Based on resume?
Yeah, based on the season.
Okay. Jamie?
So at this point in the season, I think the clear number 1 is Tennessee. Like, I know people were high on Georgia. They won last year and they've been number 1, but based on resume, it's definitely Tennessee. You guys have had better results in games and you've also had better wins and you've, had better outings, where Georgia has had some games that haven't looked great and they've had some issues at times. Georgia would be number 2. Number 3 would be TCU, just based on their resume and the games that they've won.
Mhm.
And then number 4, I would say Michigan with an edge over Ohio State, because I think Michigan has looked more complete in their games and with mutual opponents that Ohio State and Michigan have played. Michigan has actually looked better against those teams. So I give Michigan the edge over Ohio State. My first 2 out would just be Clemson and Ohio State.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I actually lied because I said we should do it on resume, but then I did it on who I think is the best team and resume. I kind of combined the two, which is why I put Alabama at number 3 because they don't have a better resume than TCU. So I kind of combined, which is sort of fucked up because that's what the people on TV do that I hate. But I can't put Michigan and Ohio State above Alabama. I just can't do it. Watching the games, I just can't do it when I think Alabama is a better football team. I think the SEC is that far superior to the Big Ten and ACC, the other conferences.
Yeah, but the
So-
thing with Alabama, because if you said, hey, who are the best 4 teams in the country, I would say Alabama's in that list. The issue with Alabama is they lost to you guys in a close game. They've had issues this year looking sloppy and not looking great. And like, who's their best win? As far as resume, like, do they have a big win?
No, Mississippi State probably, or Texas. Texas, Mississippi State, but Texas, they really struggled. Probably should have lost. And Mississippi State, they throttled. But Mississippi State, I mean, they're just Mississippi State. Mississippi State hadn't scored a touchdown in Tuscaloosa in like 10 years until
Well,
this last game.
yeah, I mean, you're proving my point. Like, you can't even give me a best win,
Arkansas is probably their best one at Arkansas.
which isn't impressive.
Yeah, Arkansas is shit. So
And then the other thing too is Alabama almost lost to Texas. They almost lost to Texas A&M. They did lose to Tennessee. Like, they're not what we've expected from Alabama in the past years. Like, they're just not that this year.
Yeah.
they've got at LSU and at Ole Miss coming up. So they'll either lose or fix their resume, I guess.
Well, the thing with those games is, I know everyone's high on LSU right now. I'm not. Like, they're not a good team. They have a terrible coach. They don't have much talent. And then Ole Miss, I think we all kind of realize that Ole Miss isn't very good. So even if they do win those games, you're still looking at it like, what's their best win, right?
Yeah.
And it still might be Arkansas. That's telling with their schedule, which is crazy. Like, I mean, they play an SEC schedule, they play legit teams, but like, you can't look at their resume and say that was a good one. And if they win all their games, they'll be in the SEC championship and they'll be able to control their own fate. But at this point in the season, I can't list them as a top 4 team based on resume.
Yeah, I actually, whoever goes to the SEC championship from the East, whether it's us or Georgia, and that game really will decide who goes. The winner of that game next weekend goes to the SEC championship. Beats Alabama in the SEC title. I don't think Alabama wins the SEC title in any situation. I know it was a really tough game that we played with them, but I think they would play a cleaner game in a title game. I think we would too. And I think that we exposed their secondary and some of their defensive weaknesses, and you can't fix that in a couple games. So I think we would beat them again, and Georgia, I certainly think would beat them as well. So
What do you think the released playoffs is going to be?
I think it's going to be. I think the committee is going to make it. I don't know. I don't know if they'll have. I don't know if they'll have the balls to put Tennessee at number 1. But if they're being fair, I think they'll do. I think they'll have a Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan.
I think what they'll do. I think what they'll do is put Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, Michigan, knowing that those 4 teams are going to work themselves out, and they don't have to make any tough decisions.
Well, and that's really the thing is they get the luxury of not it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The 4 teams they put in there all play each other over the next couple weeks. Tennessee, wherever they put Tennessee and Georgia makes absolutely no difference because that sorts itself out 4 days after they do the selections.
Yeah.
So there's no pressure for them to do anything. So I could see them putting Georgia at number 1 because of the win over Oregon and then the way they just dominated Florida, but Florida's not very good. So if they're going by resume, we've beaten 5 top 25 teams. They have to put us at number 1, and also Ohio State. I'm not sure that they'll move off Ohio State, but I think they'll have Tennessee and Georgia 1 and 2, Ohio State, Michigan 3 and 4. That's the way I think it'll look. That's the way it should look, and that's kind of what I think they'll do.
Yeah, either way, I think they won't include TCU or Clemson, just knowing that the rest will knock each other off.
Yeah. No. They can't put those teams in there. They haven't played anybody. They just can't put them in. What do you guys think it's going to be?
I think it'll be those 4 teams. The order doesn't matter, like you guys are saying. But it's definitely going to be those 4 teams, and the next 2 out will be TCU, Clemson, and then Alabama's right there sitting at 7, which they don't do the 7th team, but Alabama's just sitting there waiting for teams to lose so they can get back into it.
Yeah, and they will.
Yeah, and the reality is even if they put Tennessee and Georgia at 3 and 4, as soon as the winners decided, they'll go to number 1 regardless. So it won't matter.
Yeah, the winner of the Tennessee Georgia game goes to number 1.
Yeah.
The loser, I think if it's a very competitive game, I think the loser takes Alabama's spot at 6 or 7. And I think that's where it kind of sits until
it depends. It depends, right? Like if you guys were to lose to Georgia in the game, there's no way that they could put Alabama in front of Tennessee in any ranking this year. Like they played each. Explain that though. How does that make sense?
They'll have to explain it, but they will do it.
So I don't agree. I don't think you guys drop that far. If you lose to Georgia, I think you drop to 6 at the worst, and then Alabama stays at 7. I can see them putting Alabama in front of Georgia if Georgia loses.
I think they would because then we would have beaten Bama at home and Georgia on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, look, Bama's got a game next week too. They play LSU. Everybody's got games next week. Clemson has to play Notre Dame. Tennessee has to play Georgia. Bama has to play LSU. So there's a lot of deciding to still be done on the field.
Who do the Big Ten teams play?
They're calling their local high schools.
It's like
Southwest Missouri State or something.
Yeah, you guys just listed, Tennessee plays this, Georgia plays this, TCU plays this, Clemson plays this. And I don't understand how that's not taken into account that Michigan and Ohio State are just in cruise control until they play each other to figure out who's going to be the Big Ten champ. It's not fair.
They just pretend the Big Ten is as good as the SEC.
Well, Michigan plays Rutgers. So they have a test, right? It's a fucking joke, man. It's a joke. And I'm trying to look and see who Ohio State plays right now. I guess maybe they have another bye. Does Ohio State get 2 byes a year now? Does anybody know?
They play at Northwestern, so.
Oh wow, good.
Some tough sledding in the Big Ten next week.
Right. So Michigan and Ohio State will play 2 teams that combine for I think 3 wins on the season. So good for them. It's a fucking joke, man. The system is completely fucking corrupt. I wish the SEC would break away and do their own thing. I would much rather see an SEC playoff at the end of the year with LSU, Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss maybe, and just let the shit just let them play each other for a national title, knowing that whoever would win that playoff is the real national champion. Would it beat whoever comes from the other conferences? That would be my preference.
I don't agree with that. I just wish that these other conferences scheduled real teams. Like the ACC and the Big Ten, they get away with scheduling bullshit out of conference games, and it's just not fair. Like everyone has different roads they have to travel to get to the playoff, and it's not a fair system. So like I want to see Ohio State play the top SEC school, and I want to see the top ACC school play I want to see the top teams play. I don't want to just see like a conference break away. I just want there to be a little bit more, you know, a little bit more equal playing field for these teams throughout the season.
Yep. And you're never going to see it. So as long as there's this conference structure, which I like the conferences, I like the SEC, I like sort of the conference pride. But as long as you have conferences, you're not going to see an equal playing field because some conferences are stronger than others. And it really is the responsibility of the Michigans, the Ohio States, the Clemsons to schedule better out of conference opponents. And Michigan, I think their out of conference schedule was UConn, Hawaii, and some other completely worthless school. It's one of the worst non-conferences in the country. And Clemson, I don't think it's much better.
No, Clemson's not. That's what I was going to say. These schools, their schedules are complete dog shit. And it's because in the current system, all you have to do is win all your games, win your conference championship, and you're automatically in, no matter what your resume looks like.
I mean, yeah, it's really bullshit. It really is. But I can't see it changing. I mean, things are going to change in college football, but in terms of sort of merging these conferences and having like greater schedules each year, I don't know how far off. That seems to be quite a ways off. At the end of the day, I think the Big Ten's philosophy is if we win the Big Ten, we're in. So why should we put ourselves at risk by scheduling big games? That at least seems to be the philosophy. I don't know. While Tennessee goes and plays Pitt non-conference when you're already playing the SEC slate. Alabama goes and plays Texas non-conference when they're also already playing the SEC slate. I don't remember who Georgia scheduled Oregon. These are real games that they're adding to an already difficult SEC schedule. And so to me, it's really disgusting to see what these other conferences are doing in terms of non-conference, but I don't know. I think they should be punished for it. I mean, they should get left out, even undefeated. It should be taken into account. You did nothing to bolster your resume when you're already in a conference that's second tier, but they won't admit they're second tier. So that's that. Good deal. What about Fillator of the week before we move on to predictions for week 10? Anybody got a Fillator of the week? I got mine.
You go first.
Whoever has Will Levis listed as a top 5 NFL quarterback prospect is a Fillator of the week. Will Levis, I've not been impressed with all year. I know he's banged up. I don't want to hear it. I've watched him play last year. I watched him play this year. What they're talking about in terms of NFL talent, I don't get it. If they're talking about his size and ability to throw the football down the field, just say that, but don't say he's an NFL caliber quarterback because he is not. He's not good. I think he had 90 yards passing last night and 3 picks. So, I mean, he might be able to play for Baltimore or something. But no, in all seriousness, he's terrible. He's terrible. He's not a good quarterback, but I'm not going to put it on him. He's just playing his position. I'm putting on the people that have kind of, overstated his potential ceiling. That's mine.
Yeah, for me, it's Pitt's coach Narduzzi. I'll read the quote first. He said, "We beat ourselves. Nobody's beat us. You can say Tennessee beat us, but if we were healthy at quarterback, even with our backup quarterback, I believe we win that football game too. As far as I'm concerned, we're undefeated." I mean, they're fucking 4-4.
Yeah, he knows that Tennessee's not their only loss, right? What about the 3 other losses?
It's just a bizarre statement. I know he was trying to do like the coach speak thing where he's like, if we play a clean game, we can beat anybody. That's not the same fucking thing as saying, as far as I'm concerned, we're undefeated when we're 4-4.
Yeah, but that's also something that you say in the locker room to get your guys ready. It's not something that you put on record because you're like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, it really is weird. It's almost like you can sort of picture somebody saying like, okay, so you're 4-4. He's like, nope, no, we're not. Not going to hear. If I close my eyes, it doesn't exist. It's weird. Nope. We're not that. We're 8-0. Don't care what you say. Fucking weirdo. He's an asshole anyway. He's a total asshole. I watched a lot of his interviews right before and after we played them. And he never gave any credit to Tennessee whatsoever. And I thought it was actually a little bit embarrassing and just kind of poor character on his part.
At least now you know.
Now I know what.
Now you know why he did that, because he didn't think that you guys beat him.
Yeah.
Get some clarity.
Yeah.
So it comes
Yeah, I mean, somebody really might want to sit him down and explain how the win-loss thing actually works. I mean, you don't just get to wish it away.
Well, tell Bo Nix that.
Tell who?
Bo Nix.
Oh yeah. Bo Nix.
I think
Bo
it's like
Nix
a common theme. It's a common theme now. Like if you just want something to go away, just act like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then tell people that it didn't happen.
Yep.
And then they have to believe you, or they're wrong.
Yep. Nope. Didn't happen. Nope.
So
I have another one too after you go, Jamie.
Yeah, mine would just have to be Miami and Virginia, both programs in their entirety. Like just fucking leave. Just shut it down for the season. Get ready for next season. That's a fucking embarrassment. The teams are pretty shitty. They have coaches in their first year. So they're still trying to figure stuff out. But like, I don't even know how it's possible to have a 4 overtime game and have 14 points. Like and it's unbelievable. I can't believe it. Maybe it didn't happen.
I was watching some guy on one of the shows, and he was saying that one of the most hardcore things he had seen this season. And he said it just because of the history of Miami just made it seem so cold-blooded. He said when Duke beat Miami, one of the Duke fans made the U with their fingers and then broke it over their knee. And he said there's just something about watching a Duke football player like break the U over their knee that was just felt really cold-blooded. And I agree 100%. I mean, how far have they dropped? I mean, Miami was a staple in college football. Miami, Penn State, Notre Dame. This is even before Tennessee finally got right. I mean, we were still struggling at that point, back when the independents were where it was at. Florida State, and it's just USC. It's crazy to see where they're at today. That they're bottom feeders in a bottom feeding conference. It's crazy. It really is crazy, and I don't like it. I wish Miami. I am a fan of the traditional teams being strong, so I don't like to see it. I don't take enjoyment in it because I always like Miami anyway. And I like to see the traditional teams being good, but man, how far have they gone?
Well, yeah, and that was only 20 years ago that Miami had some of the most talented teams ever. Like those early 2000s teams where they were winning national titles were loaded.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a plummet.
Yeah. I think people don't even really remember that. Like when I think of Miami, I think of like the late 80s, early 90s. Like I don't even remember the early 2000s because it seems like it was such a quick blip. Like they had a 4 or 5 year stretch where they were really good and then they fell right back off again. It's weird.
Yeah, so my other fillators, because I did want to mention this, is the Spartans players that beat up the Michigan players in the fucking tunnel after the game. That's
What?
a total. You didn't hear about that?
No,
Michigan State players attacked a couple Michigan players in the tunnel as they were leaving the field. And I haven't seen like the full details yet, but there's talk of like charges and
Like were they still in pads? Like they were leaving the field in pads?
Yeah. Which is weird because didn't somebody just complain like 2 weeks ago about Michigan's tunnel being too small?
James Franklin did, and James Franklin said they need to correct this issue in the tunnel where both teams are in there. But then Jim Harbaugh came out and said that James Franklin started the entire thing in the tunnel anyway. There wouldn't have been an issue if it wasn't for him. But why college teams don't have it should be an absolute rule by the NCAA that you have to have two separate exits and entrances for teams. The fact that teams still go in and out of one tunnel is this 1900? It's bizarre, man. Create another fucking exit. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't hear about this fight.
I hear you about the tunnel, but like, I mean, can we can't expect players to not fight after the game? Like if they, like, I mean, it's fucking, come on. It's not like, I hate when people, like when you're competing and one person is losing, the next thing that they want to win is the fight. Like we're here competing, we're playing a game. Once that is lost, it's always, I can beat you in a fight. I hate people like that.
Yeah,
sure-
I mean, Jamie, I'm with you. I don't condone that either. I think it's ridiculous, but you have to, what should happen and what does happen are two different things. And the bottom line is that when these guys are playing football, it's a brutal sport and they're putting everything into it. So you can't expect that when they walk into the tunnel that they just automatically turn that off. So I think just from a human perspective,
What off? They're playing football. They're not fighting.
it's still a violent sport. I mean, it's not like you're coming out there saying, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna block this guy." Excuse me, we're gonna come through here, we're gonna run the ball through. I mean, it's a violent sport. It doesn't just turn off like a light switch when you're done. I mean, you need some time. Even the fans need to unwind and kind of decompress after a game. It's very emotional. I'm not saying they should fight. I'm not making an excuse for them fighting.
I know. I'm just saying after the game, I mean, generally the players stay on the field, they shake hands, they talk. There's probably a 15-minute time span, but between the time that the game's over and the time that they're going into the locker rooms. So, and I agree, like what happens and what should happen are two different things. It's just, I mean, come on, man.
I just put the video in the chat. It's only 20 seconds if you guys want to watch it real quick. These dudes are pieces of shit. There's like 100 Michigan State players there and one fucking Michigan guy. I mean, obviously they're not all going after him, but he's completely surrounded.
No, it says I would have to leave our recording to watch it. So I'll watch it later. Look, I agree with you guys. It shouldn't happen. It's not excusable, but this is not 100 years ago. Build another fucking exit. Teams should not be coming in and out of the same tunnel. Period. I
Yeah.
mean, you know how many episodes there's been with teams in the tunnels? It's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, at Tennessee, they leave at opposite ends of the stadium. So the only time they come together is when they play or when they want to shake hands. I mean, it's bizarre that they're coming in and out of one tunnel. Give me a break, man. These schools are making millions and millions of dollars. You can't have another exit.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. This isn't like your local fucking community college. This is Michigan. Like you've got the money, build a fucking tunnel.
Exactly. Or create a system where people leave and come together, but you shouldn't have to do that. I heard James Franklin saying, look, they should at least like make one team wait a couple minutes till the other team clears. That's ridiculous. It's halftime. Go to your tunnel, go to your locker room. You shouldn't have to wait for anything. Just go. Doesn't matter. Yeah, that's complete bullshit, but I'll look at the video when we're done and check it out. Anything else for college football review, or you guys ready to get into some predictions?
Yeah, let's do our predictions.
All right, Zach, you got the games pulled up?
Yeah. So first one is Wake Forest, NC State. You and I have Wake. Jamie has NC State.
Yeah, this is a don't care game. I don't think either team is any good. I know they're both ranked. That's why they're on there, but I don't think any team is very good. So I took Wake. Don't care.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
NC State just squeaked out a win against Virginia Tech, and I'm assuming Wake Forest isn't going to have 8 turnovers again. So I'll take Wake.
Yeah,
Jamie,
both teams suck. I just took NC State. I don't really have any more insight.
All right, next is Texas Tech at TCU. You both have TCU. I have Texas Tech.
Nothing there. Nothing to see here. Keep moving.
Yeah, Texas Tech is schizophrenic, like I said earlier. Last week was a bad personality. I think this week will be a good one. So Oklahoma State at Kansas. You both have Oklahoma State. I have Kansas. Oklahoma State just lost 48-0, so I'm taking Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas started out really good and having a really nice season, but that seems like a lifetime ago. So I think Oklahoma State has really declined, but I don't think they've declined so far that they lose to Kansas. So I'll take the men from Okie State.
Yeah, I picked OK State just because I just don't believe in Kansas. So.
Yeah, I don't really either. I think Oklahoma State's just kind of going off the rails. So Texas at Kansas State. You both have Texas. I have Kansas State.
Yeah, I don't think Kansas State's as good as they looked against Oklahoma State. I think Texas can play some defense. And I question Kansas State's defense. So I like Texas in a competitive game.
I think it'll be a good game too, but I picked Texas.
Yeah, this is kind of a pick 'em for me. So I figured I'd pick Kansas. I would just take the whole state. Florida at A&M. You both have Florida. I have A&M.
This really, I honestly picked this game based on who I think sucks the least. Because both programs have, I mean, even from week one, they seem a shell of themselves. A&M is a train wreck, man. And I know that there's all these rumors and speculations about guys smoking weed in the locker room and guys getting prepared to hit the transfer portal. They're planning for well, there's rumors that there's going to be a mass exodus at the end of this season. I just think A&M is an absolute shambles. So I like Florida to win an ugly, ugly, ugly game. You guys got anything on that?
Yeah, just the same kind of stuff you were saying. A&M is just, they outdo themselves every week with fucking up and looking terrible. And Florida, I mean, they kind of suck too, but I'm going with Florida.
Yeah, for me, this is more of, I think Florida has thrown in the towel, and A&M looked like they still at least wanted to be there last night against Ole Miss. They seem to look a little bit better on offense with this freshman quarterback. This is another one that I think is a pick 'em. I wouldn't be surprised by any outcome. Both teams are just train wrecks right now. So
yeah, and falling fast. That's the thing. Both teams just kind of falling fast,
Yeah, I mean, at least Florida didn't pay $100 million to collapse, but it's a problem for A&M.
It's factored in yet either. I don't know that I agree with you. I mean, even down 28-3, they still had some fight in them against Georgia. So I don't know that I don't know that I buy into the idea that Florida has packed it in. I just think they're not very good.
Maybe
I just think they're not very good. So, but I think A&M has packed it in. I don't know. Maybe that's not fair to say that a team has packed it in because even A&M put up a fight against Ole Miss. But I don't think Ole Miss is that good. I think they're overrated. So the whole thing is weird.
Yeah.
A&M, I don't trust the state of the program. They just seem to be a mess. Whether or not they packed it in is irrelevant. The program seems to be a mess. And so I'll take the Florida team that at least seems to be coached and still putting up a fight. So I'll take Florida.
All right. So next is Maryland, Wisconsin. You both have Wisconsin. I have Maryland.
Yeah, this was a tough game. I just took Wisconsin based on history. I wouldn't be surprised if Maryland wins, but I think Wisconsin historically has been a better football team, and I haven't watched a ton from either team. So I took the home team in Wisconsin, but I'm not going to be surprised here if Maryland gets a win.
Yeah, this was the hardest. This was the hardest game for me to pick on this list, and I actually was thinking about picking Maryland, but then I was like, "What the fuck am I doing?" So I just.
Wisconsin has just been so bad this season. So I think if Maryland can score some points, they'll probably win. And their offense has been decent.
The thing
is Maryland's quarterback healthy?
I think so.
Okay.
But the thing with Wisconsin, yeah, their offense does suck, but Maryland doesn't play any defense. So I think the teams it's gonna be a battle, I think, because Maryland can score. Wisconsin's defense is still decent, and Wisconsin can't score, and Maryland's defense sucks. So I think Wisconsin has the edge.
Yeah, I mean, all right, I'll come back to the Tennessee-Georgia game. Syracuse at Pitt. You both have Pitt. I have Syracuse.
Yeah. Both teams just not very good compared to where they were 3 weeks ago. I don't have a lot to say about this game because even if Pitt loses, they win. So Pitt really can't lose here. So I went with Pitt because if the scoreboard says they lose, then Narduzzi's going to give me a win anyway. So I'm good with it. I'm good either way.
That was my thinking too. Like when we do these grades and you do the winners and losers, Pitt's got to be green either way. So it's a win-win situation.
Right. Right. I got to go back and fix all those scores now that Narduzzi's explained how the win-loss thing works.
Does that mean that you guys have one loss, or does it not work?
No, we both won.
No, yeah, we both won.
That
We
makes
both won. And Alabama's still undefeated too. Because they made a couple big mistakes in that game against us, so they're actually still undefeated. And Oregon's undefeated too, because Bo Nick says that game was just an aberration. So Oregon's everybody's undefeated.
it's completely wide open.
Yeah. We're going back to the beginning, you fucking idiots. All right, let's go, Zach.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. Pitt's just been really fucking bad, so I'll take Syracuse.
Yeah, but Syracuse can't score. That's why I took Pitt. They cannot score. They suck.
Yeah. All right. So Bama at LSU. That's a pretty big game. It's in LSU. You and I have LSU, and Jamie has Bama.
Yeah, I actually think Alabama's going to win this game, but I'm going to root for LSU in that game, so I took them. I'm just being honest about it.
Yeah, I think Bama's going to win, so I picked them to win. I think it sucks. And fuck Brian Kelly.
Every LSU game he finishes with fuck Brian Kelly.
Yeah, anytime I can throw that in, I do. I don't miss an opportunity to say fuck Brian Kelly.
I'm with you. I second fuck Brian Kelly.
Yeah, I picked LSU mainly because it's in Baton Rouge at night. And LSU's been playing a lot better. I mean, I'm not sure what that's worth. I guess we'll find out Saturday, but I think they have a chance to get him, and Brian Kelly can make it seem like he was worth the hire when he probably wasn't.
I mean, look, you can't underestimate the amount of mistakes that Alabama's made on the road this year. And LSU is going to be just as crazy at night as well, it won't be as crazy as the Tennessee game, but it'll be wild. I mean, this is LSU season. So if LSU can knock off Alabama, they're going to go most likely they're going to go to the SEC title game. So LSU has everything on the line in this game. Both teams do actually. So
yeah.
It's not a game where LSU just wants to knock them off. I mean, they're playing for a trip to the SEC title.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be both teams are going to leave it on the field. It should be a good game. I do think Alabama's probably going to win, but I want LSU to win. So that's just where it's at.
Oh, I forgot to mention when we were talking about our game. Did you see them like turn the lights off in the stadium and only light up the T when we came out?
I loved it.
That was cool as shit.
Yeah.
I bet that place is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So the last two are Clemson at Notre Dame. We all have Notre Dame.
Look, I think here's my thing with Notre Dame. I think that the game plan against Syracuse was perfect. They all they had to do was not make mistakes, drive the ball, be physical, dominate the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly what they did. I think with Clemson, Jamie was talking about the lack of Jamie. You were talking about them not taking shots down the field. I think that's going to be absolutely necessary against Clemson. Even if it's just I don't know what their completion rate would be down the field, but they're going to have to loosen up the defense because Clemson can play defense. Their offense is suspect, but they're going to be able to contain Notre Dame's run. So if Notre Dame's not able to open it up and push the ball down the field a little bit, at least to loosen them up, then they're not going to win. But I like Notre Dame to get some play action shots down the field and to win. I think a very competitive, low scoring game.
Yeah, I agree. I just know that running the ball against Clemson is going to be a challenge. I'm not saying that we won't be able to, but it's going to be harder than it was against Syracuse. And I think it would have been smart to at least take some shots in the Syracuse game just to, get our receivers ready, have some reps, just kind of do it before we actually have to do it against Clemson. It's much easier to throw down the field when you don't have to, as opposed to when you're playing a team that is shutting down your run and you have to throw the ball down the field. So I don't understand why we didn't a little bit more, knowing that we're going to be playing Clemson, similar style with a better defense. So I picked Notre Dame, but I wouldn't say that I feel good about it. Clemson could definitely beat us, and Notre Dame might show up and look totally different and look out of sorts. So it's just like a, wait and see kind of thing.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame's defense is pretty much going to shut down Clemson's offense. Clemson's offense is garbage. Like even against Syracuse, whose defense I don't think is very good, they struggled. I mean, they had 4 turnovers. They looked bad. So, I mean, they bad enough to bench their starting quarterback. So I expect Notre Dame to punish them when they make mistakes. And I think this is going to be, I think Freeman is probably viewing this game as one that he has to win. Because he had the Ohio State game earlier this season, which isn't a bad loss, but, it would have been a great win for him to start his tenure. But then he followed it with the bad losses with Marshall and Stanford. So I feel like I think he feels like he needs to win one. So I expect them to come out and give everything they have in this one to get a good win for him.
Yeah, and to comment on that, like anytime that your season doesn't go as you expect it, you always have that chance to kind of knock off a rival or knock off an undefeated team. So this is our chance to knock off Clemson and kind of ruin their season. And if we can go the rest of our games and win out, that would mean a lot to our fans and our belief in Marcus Freeman, and could also give him some confidence going into next year. So we still have a lot to play for, even though our season is, it isn't what we were hoping it to be. And it really hasn't turned out to our expectations, but we still have a lot to play for.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I agree that Freeman feels like this is a must win for him because he's in his first year. But I think that the perspective has to be that the program needs this win to salvage what's really been a disappointing season. So I think from a team standpoint, they understand that this really could make a lot of things better in terms of how it's going this season. So I think this is a big game, man. I really do believe that Notre Dame is going to win this game. So we'll see. Who's next?
All right, and the last one is obviously Tennessee and Georgia.
Yeah,
we
so
all
that's
have
going to be the
Tennessee.
biggest.
Yeah.
Oh, we all have Tennessee. Jamie, you took Tennessee.
Yeah.
I thought you would take Georgia for sure. So look, I think this is going to be a slugfest. I think Georgia's a really, really good team. Obviously, they're number one. I mean, that's kind of a stupid statement, but just watching them play, they're super balanced, and that's the thing. I know I used that word when we were talking about them against Florida, but that's the word that comes to mind. They take care of the ball, they run well. The short passing is super accurate. They push the ball down the field a little bit, mainly to the tight ends. And then they just play solid defense and they tackle awesome. I mean, you just don't. I didn't see. I don't think I remember seeing one broken tackle in the game, and then Florida took it for a touchdown. But they just don't miss a lot of tackles. So even if you get complete a 5-yard pass, 6-yard pass, there's not a lot of yards after catch. And so I think Georgia's a solid team. But I like our offense to score. I'd like us to take care of the tight ends. And just the way that we were able to adjust and keep pace with Bryce Young, who's a far superior quarterback than Bennett. I like us to win this game. I don't have any idea what the score will look like. I think whoever hits 30 wins. That's what I think. I think the mark is 30 to win the football game. So Tennessee's got to get there. And obviously nobody's really slowed us down on offense. This will be our toughest test. For as far as defenses that we're facing, but I just can't imagine anybody just shutting us down. So I like us.
Yeah, this is the matchup between the two best teams in the country, in my opinion. I think these are the two best teams. And I think it will be a back and forth game. I just trust your guys' team more than I trust Georgia, which is crazy to say because Georgia's, like you said, they're the number one team. They look like they have everything figured out. Their defense is good. Their offense is good. They have great players everywhere. But anytime Tennessee needs a score, anytime Tennessee needs to answer, they've always answered every time this year. And your guys' defense is starting to gain some confidence. They're starting to make some plays. They're running around. They're moving around fast and making plays. So I just And then the few times that Georgia has come out, not played well, lost focus, I do think that is concerning. And if you do that against a team like Tennessee, who's always looking to score touchdowns every time they have the ball, I feel more confident taking Tennessee in the game than I do Georgia. So I took Tennessee.
Yeah, I think the thing
Yeah.
I'm most interested in seeing is our offensive line versus their defensive line, because we held up obviously really well against Bama. We scored 50. People were talking about Kentucky's defensive line, which they looked all right. We scored 40. So I'm curious to see if we can buy Hooker the time that he needs, because I don't really know what to make of Georgia's defense against our offense. It's a weird matchup because their defense is so big and physical and obviously just dominates the trenches. But we spread the whole field out wide, and we're more talented than Oregon. We don't have Bo Nix, so I'm not really sure what to expect, honestly. And Stetson Bennett throwing the ball 40 times a game does not seem like the formula for Georgia to win to me. But obviously they're undefeated, and I think yesterday against Florida he was 18 for 37 or 19 for 38 or something, but only for 300 yards. But obviously they still scored 40 points, so I'm not really sure what to make of them at all. I think it's kind of a weird matchup. I don't really know what to expect, honestly.
I wouldn't have guessed that was the ratio of pass to run. I've only watched Georgia play a couple of times, and I know that when they played Oregon, they were throwing the ball all over the place. I mean, they made Oregon look really bad. And I think that was one of those games where I don't like, there's some games where a team plays so bad, you're like, fuck it, trash it. It was just a fucked up game. We're not even going to watch the film. You hear the coaches saying, we're going to bury that tape. We're not even going to watch it. That's just not who we are. Everything that could go wrong just went wrong. And I think that game against Oregon, everything that could go right went right for Georgia. So I don't think that was really an indication of who they actually are. I think they're a good team. I don't think they were as good as that game made them look. But when I was watching them play yesterday against Florida, they really ran the ball well. So it's surprising to me that they're passing as much as they are, because it looks like they have the offensive line to move people and be successful running the football. So it's surprising that they would be throwing the ball that much, but they are undefeated and they've been blowing people out. Other than that Missouri game and a couple games stretch there where they struggled. They last couple of weeks they've been blowing people out, and they blew Florida out yesterday. I don't care what the score says. I know 22 was what the difference was at the end of the game, but they dominated that game. Florida was never in it. They were never in it. So this will be a mega contest next week. Probably between number 1 and number 2 when all the rankings come out. So I'm pretty excited. I'll have a big party here for the game, and people will be here. And look, Tennessee's having a great season. I'm gonna celebrate it, enjoy it, and I'm hoping we get this win. This is clearly going to be the greatest test so far, and I expect that we'll probably be double-digit underdogs. What do you guys think the line's going to be?
I know the preseason line was like 12.5. I think it'll probably be 7.5, 6.5, 7.5.
Yeah, I think 6.5.
Really, I think it's going to be 11.5. That's what I would expect Vegas to do.
Yeah, right now it looks like it's ranging from 10 to 15.5.
Yeah. 15.5 is an insult, but 10 is where I expected it to be. Look, they made Alabama a 8.5 to 9 point favorite coming into Knoxville. Georgia's a better football team, and we're going into Athens. I don't know why people thought it would be a touchdown game, or I think I heard guys on TV last night saying they thought it would be a pick 'em. There's no way.
Oh, actually, okay. So the 15.5 was back in May in the preseason stuff, and the 10.5 is what it looks like now. About 10.
Yeah.
I've seen Herb Street is giving the edge to Tennessee over Georgia. So Herbie's picking you guys now.
Hopefully he picks Georgia, because he's 0-2 this season on game day.
I know.
Yeah, I'd rather Herbie not pick us. All right. So anything else on the college football upcoming week before we wrap? It should be a really, really good weekend of football. A lot of good matchups. And really the playoff picture is going to start to take some serious shape next week. The first rankings Tuesday, but really everything will start to get shaped up on next Saturday. Any last thoughts before we wrap? All right, so that is it. Till we do it again.
See ya.
See ya.